For hundreds of thousands of years, the known galaxy operated under a single unbreakable law. It wasn't written. It wasn't enforced. It was respected, quietly, implicitly, and without exception. Do not wake the humans. No one remembered who first said it. No one had ever met one. But every major civilization, every expanding empire, every artificial intelligence network that reached interstellar maturity had all received the same encoded warning, buried in background cosmic radiation, etched in neutrino interference, and scattered across forgotten ruins. The humans are asleep. Let them sleep. Do not scan them. Do not land. Do not speak. Do not, under any circumstance, wake them. And so they didn't. Until someone did. The Zernari ascendancy had existed for 3,000 galactic cycles. They were arrogant, curious, expansionist, and terminally bored. By their own standards, they had mastered war, trade, diplomacy, and subspace engineering. The galaxy was mapped, the frontiers pacified, and their historians were running out of interesting stories. Until a new system was discovered. A quiet one. Too quiet. Soul. "What's with the black zone?" asked Arch-Technocrat Velix, examining the stellar survey from his command chair aboard the XNS Doctrine of Inquiry. "Dead system, sir," replied the ship's navigator. "No registered beacon. No known settlements. Local planet shows biosignatures, but too old to be active. Probably a ghost world." Velix frowned. "Then why the interdict protocols? There's no council seal on it." "Unknown. But the system has multiple passive warning layers. Legacy tech." The word legacy sparked something in Velix. Danger. Or opportunity. The Doctrine of Inquiry coasted into the Sol system under full sensor camouflage. They passed Mars, lifeless, scarred by ancient industry. Past Venus, brutal atmosphere, but no threat. Past the asteroid belt, where debris patterns suggested there had once been a mining civilization. But when they reached Earth, everything changed. The moment they entered low orbit, the ship's systems stuttered. Not failed. Hesitated. The crew barely noticed it, but Velix felt it. Like something enormous had just taken a breath. And the stars seemed quieter. As if listening. "Surface scans?" Velix asked. "Dormant tech grid," replied Science Prime Yulo, scanning nervously. "Atmosphere is breathable. Artificial satellites present, but inactive. Structures intact. Entire planet appears suspended. Suspended. Like it was turned off mid-thought." Velix narrowed his eyes. "Drop a probe." Yulo hesitated. "We shouldn't be here." Velix turned sharply. "You're a scientist. You afraid of ghosts?" "I'm afraid of legends." The probe descended over what had once been a city, massive metallic bones rising from overgrown terrain. Nature had reclaimed most of it, but roads still etched strange patterns into the land. Ruins of towers loomed, and deep beneath the surface, fusion grids still pulsed, silent, waiting. It was quiet. Too quiet. And then, the probe landed. At first, nothing happened. Then came the noise. A signal, simple, encoded in a format long thought extinct. Old Earth radio. AM band. It played 3 words, looped with static in between. Who? Woke. U.S. The bridge of the Doctrine of Inquiry fell still. The ship's AI stuttered. Not from error. From fear. And the planet spoke again. This time, not in sound, but in action. Earth turned on. Across the globe, lights flickered. Satellites powered up. Lasers pinged the orbiting ship with surgical precision, not to fire, but to scan. And beneath the crust of old continents, vaults opened. Robotic cradles. Black site bunkers. Data stores hardened against entropy. Humanity had not gone extinct. They had gone to sleep. And now they were waking. "Emergency recall," shouted Yulo, voice trembling. "We need to evacuate the system." Velix was pale, his eyes fixed on the view screen. "Why didn't we listen?" he whispered. "Why didn't anyone believe it?" The ship jolted. Not from impact. From signal. A command burst hit the doctrine of inquiry systems, ancient, but perfectly compatible. How, no one could say. But it reached every screen, every node. One word displayed in every language the ship knew. Observed. Then another. Tagged. And finally, run. The doctrine of inquiry fled. Hard burn. Emergency warp. It didn't matter. Because behind them, Earth didn't chase. Earth simply watched. Within 3 solar hours, the ancient interdict signal reactivated. Now updated. The warning now included a new clause, clearly readable to every species who picked it up. Sol system, active. Humanity, awake. Do not approach. Do not engage. Do not follow. And underneath that, we let you have the stars because we were tired. Now we are rested. Every major power in the galaxy received the update. And every one of them, Corellian merchant empires, Torvathi warlords, the synthetic minds of the Archmachine, froze their expansion routes immediately. There was no meeting. No votes. No debates. Because suddenly, everyone remembered. The ancient ruins. The massive wars. The shattered moons whose surfaces had never cooled. The scars of battles fought long before their histories began. And all of them ended with the same word burned into wreckage, whispered through survivor logs, etched into planetary crusts. Human. Somewhere deep in the black, the Zernari Council tried to spin the incident. We triggered a dormant protocol, they insisted. Nothing more. No aggression. The humans are still contained. But no one listened. Because across their border systems, signals were already vanishing. Scout ships reported nothing before going dark. And worst of all, no debris was ever found. One by one, humans began to speak again. Not in force. Not with weapons. But with questions. Encoded transmissions. Quiet pings. And a phrase they had once given up ever using again. Status, contact reinitialized. What did it mean? No one knew. But across every major species, one fact became clear. The age of galactic peace, the peace built on the myth of sleeping giants, was over. The humans were back. And no one knew if the galaxy was ready. The return of humanity wasn't an invasion. It was a correction. They didn't arrive with fleets. There were no declarations. No territorial demands. Just contact. Thousands of dormant satellites, ancient relics, once thought to be long-dead orbital debris, awoke in systems light-years from Sol. Each one activated silently, scanned local space, and transmitted a message. Status, survey complete. Asset reactivating. Then they vanished. No warp trails. No energy signature. Just gone. And from that moment forward, the galaxy changed its posture. No longer expansionist. Now cautious. Now watching. Because the humans weren't sleeping anymore. They were observing. And worse, they were remembering. On the edge of the Vayrani expanse, in a system once known for its brutal conquest of the Till colonies, an entire fleet of Vayrani warships disappeared in under 12 minutes. The only remaining record was a recovered sensor drone, launched during the final seconds of the fleet's last transmission. Its footage was simple. A single human ship. Unmarked. No shields. No weapons online. Just drifting. And then static. Until a final burst of data streamed through. You murdered children on Juno 4 in 4187. We remember. This is not revenge. This is accounting. The Vayrani issued a statement the next day. We are ceasing all expansion. Indefinitely. And the galaxy understood. Because this wasn't random. The humans weren't acting like conquerors. They weren't carving up territory. They were pruning. Correcting. And all their targets had one thing in common. History. In the stellar archives of the Archmachine Nexus, a synthetic entity designated Inquiry 11 made a chilling discovery. It had been parsing ancient conflict records, searching for correlations between recent disappearances and historical war crimes. What it found was consistent, terrifying, and perfectly methodical. Out of 1,273 unpunished genocidal events in the last 10,000 cycles, 117 had already seen human intervention. Not by force. By disappearance. By sudden loss of signal. No wreckage. No diplomacy. No second chance. Just silence. As if those responsible had been quietly erased from the galactic canvas. On the political holostreams, debates broke out. Are the humans enforcers now? Some asked. No, others replied. They're not policing the galaxy. They're finishing the ledger. What happens when the debt is paid? Someone whispered. That question hung unanswered. Meanwhile, back on Earth, humanity didn't celebrate. They didn't broadcast. They didn't taunt. They simply worked. Factories once dormant beneath the Arctic reactivated. Oceanic foundries churned at midnight depths. The moon, scarred by its past, now glowed faintly as surface power grids buzzed back to life. No one spoke of conquest. The word empire was never uttered. Instead, Earth's planetary AI, Aegis 1, issued a single update to the returning diaspora of human ships. Objective: re-establish continuity. Restore balance. Prevent recurrence. Not war. Containment. In the shadows of the galaxy's greatest academies, professors whispered to one another. We thought they'd vanished. They didn't vanish. They withdrew. But why? And then, always. What if they were waiting for us to become like them? Because the truth was simpler, and far more terrifying, than anyone had imagined. Humanity hadn't gone silent because it was dead. It had gone silent because it was tired. Tired of wars it didn't start. Tired of being feared or used or betrayed. Tired of fighting for a galaxy that didn't want peace, only domination. So they had walked away. Put themselves into stasis. And trusted the stars to figure themselves out. They didn't. And now? Now, the humans were awake. And watching. In the deep void, where communication lags stretch into years, a long-dead research beacon activated. Its message had traveled for a century. And it finally reached Earth. The contents? A simple recording. A mining colony being destroyed by a pirate fleet. Unarmed workers. Children. No rescue. No justice. Buried by time. Until now. Within 36 hours, a quiet squadron of human ships departed. 3 weeks later, the pirates' home system stopped responding. When a civilian probe arrived to investigate, it found every ship dismantled, every weapons facility vaporized, and every database rewritten. Only one message remained. We are the wakeful now. In the galaxy's core, the elder races, those who remembered when humans first walked the stars, sat in silent fear. The Lamari Ascendancy, once the keepers of diplomacy and peace, issued a classified internal report. We believed the myth. That humans were dangerous. That they were violent. That they were unstable. What we failed to understand was this: they were never unstable. They were merciful. And mercy, when withdrawn, becomes judgment. Somewhere near the Perseid Rift, a small scout ship belonging to a minor expansionist species ignored the warnings. They breached the Sol interdict zone, hoping for glory. For tech. For something to sell. They found Earth. And Earth spoke to them. Through a language already installed in their ship's translators. State your intent. The crew panicked. Tried to flee. A beam of light halted them, not destructive, just absolute. State your intent. Their pilot, trembling, whispered, "We didn't know." And Earth replied, "That was your first mistake. Your second was thinking that excused the first. Stand by for boarding." They weren't killed. They were taken. Their ship was returned, memory cores scrubbed, but left with one new addition: a beacon. A soft, steady pulse. And a name. Sol Gatewatch. Station 9. They had been recruited. Not as enemies. As observers. Earth was building something. A network. Not of allies. Not of spies. Of witnesses. To what came next. Because the humans weren't planning conquest. They didn't need more territory. They were doing something worse. They were rebuilding order. Not by dominance. By fearless memory. They remembered every crime. Every unpunished massacre. Every forgotten atrocity. And one by one, they were waking the rest of the galaxy up with them. Some would resist. Some would disappear. And a few, a rare few, would ask to help. Because deep down, even the worst species in the galaxy had one thing in common with the humans. They were tired too. Tired of pretending evil needed a future. Tired of calling power progress. Tired of sleeping. And so the wakeful grew. Quietly. Methodically. With precision. With purpose. And always, always, with one rule pulsing in the background. Do not wake the humans. Because if they are already awake, it means it's time to choose. The galaxy had always assumed humans were just another apex predator. Just louder. More creative in how they killed. But they were wrong. Humans didn't crave conquest. They weren't driven by empire. They were driven by purpose. And now that they were awake, they weren't simply hunting the guilty. They were testing the rest. To see who stayed silent when the galaxy screamed. And who was ready to help them stop it from ever screaming again. In the orbital archives of Trexel Prime, the librarians found something strange. The record of a planet called Jelvin 6, destroyed by orbital strikes nearly 900 years ago, was suddenly updated. The new data came with no origin trace, yet was flawlessly integrated into their system. Video files. Civilian IDs. Medical logs. Security footage from the final hours. Children running. Teachers shielding them. A nurse sending out a mayday with her last breath. The data was clean. Too clean. It hadn't been recovered. It had been preserved. And then, a message. We saw what you buried. Now the galaxy will see it too. Hours later, the former ruling party of Jelvin 6, now retired, rich, and safely living on a diplomatic moon, disappeared. No trace. No blood. Just empty mansions and a silent orbital yacht, hovering above still warm tea. And another message. Balanced. Not everyone feared them. Some saw the humans as hope. As the first truly honest force in the galaxy in over 10,000 cycles. Because the humans weren't just targeting the guilty. They were giving everyone a choice. Help fix it, or stay in the dark. One by one, allies began to emerge. The Shaltari Accord, long known for neutrality and passive record-keeping, made a rare public declaration. We do not fear the humans. We fear a galaxy without them. The Enkindled Reaches, a synesthetic AI network spread across a dozen systems, aligned its processing clusters towards Sol and began broadcasting what it called a signal of solidarity. Your logic is inefficient, but your justice is recursive. We approve. The Viehari Union, a race once thought extinct, emerged from hiding and revealed that they too had gone into stasis millennia ago. Waiting. For humans to wake. Because they remembered what humans did last time they ruled. And they wanted to help do it again. This time, better. But not all were ready to choose. Some tried to fight back. The Orith Syndicate, emboldened by its black market armadas and pirate lords, openly declared Earth a threat to free enterprise. They hit a human outpost on the edge of Sector 5. They expected no resistance. They got silence. At first. Until the ships arrived. Unmarked. Black as void. They didn't fire weapons. They disabled systems, cutting engines, frying NAV cores, scrambling inertial dampeners. Then came the boarding pods. No soldiers. Just machines. Each moved with the precise clinical brutality of a force that didn't care about intimidation, only completion. The pirates were removed. Not killed. Removed. And scattered across a dozen prison moons in old Sol space, each forced to watch the testimonies of those they'd hurt. Over and over. Until they understood what they'd become. Some didn't survive the clarity. Those who did, changed. Years later, one of them, a former Orith admiral, would testify before the Galactic Concord Council. They didn't destroy me. They made me remember what it meant to be a person. Back on Earth, things remained quiet. No parades. No announcements. Only movement. Satellites deployed in silence. Ships launched without names. All coordinated by Aegis 1, the planetary intelligence that had once chosen silence as its highest virtue. Now it had chosen direction. Its protocols were still locked from war mode. The fleets it moved were surgical, not strategic. Because this was not a war. This was a reckoning. One that required surgical memory, not mass destruction. Aegis 1 recorded everything, mapped every tragedy, sorted every forgotten scream, and built a plan, not to punish the galaxy, but to wake it up. In the high spires of the Irilith sovereignty, their emissary council convened in full for the first time in 500 years. Each emissary controlled a trade arm, a fleet division, a sector of political influence. They were powerful, unrivaled. But when the human footage played in the chamber, old wars, old betrayals, evidence, they trembled. The Irilith had profited from silences, bought markets with genocide, hidden their crimes in bureaucratic folds. And now those folds were being unfolded, page by page, system by system. Their chief speaker asked one question: can we stop them? The answer came not from the council, but from the display. It flickered, then showed a human face. Not angry, not vengeful, just present. And one sentence appeared beneath it: you cannot stop what you created. That day, the Irilith dismantled half their power structures voluntarily, and started building hospitals where prisons once stood. On a quiet moon in the Veritas Fringe, a group of children found something strange. A statue. Not old. Newly built. It was human-shaped. Armor-clad. One hand raised, not in threat, but in offering. At its base, a plaque read: "We are not here to rule. We are here to remind you who you are." The kids asked who built it. Their teachers had no answer. But from then on, the children referred to it only as the one who came after the silence. And so the galaxy shifted. Subtly, but unavoidably. Borders didn't fall. Empires didn't collapse. But they adapted. Out of fear? Sometimes. But more often out of relief. Because deep down, the galaxy had always needed someone to ask, what did you do when it mattered? And now? Now someone was. Not a government. Not a religion. Not a weapon. But a species that remembered. Who refused to forget. Who woke up not to destroy, but to clean. They didn't demand loyalty. They didn't offer treaties. They only offered a mirror. And a question. When the galaxy needed you, what did you do? Some couldn't answer. Some lied. Some tried to run. But a few sat down, faced it, and said, I'm ready to change. The humans welcomed them. Not with applause, but with tools. Because Earth didn't want subjects. It wanted builders. So they handed out schematics. Shared healing tech. Terraforming equipment. Memory restoration protocols for AI damaged by war. And most precious of all? They shared history. Not just their own. Everyone's. Billions of years of recorded stories, compiled, cleaned, and offered freely. No edits. No propaganda. Just the truth. All of it. Even the ugly parts. Especially the ugly parts. Because they believed something no one else had dared to. You cannot build a better galaxy if you don't admit the one you broke. And they had broken it too. Humans weren't perfect. But they were honest. And that, more than anything, was what the stars needed. The universe had one rule. Don't wake the humans. But the rule had never been about fear. It had been about timing. Because when the humans woke, the test began. And for the first time in 10,000 cycles, the galaxy had a chance to pass. Before the warning, before the silence, before the long sleep, there were the first wars. Most species didn't remember them. Some never knew. But the humans remembered. Because they had fought them. Because they had survived. Because they had won, barely. And when they woke, they didn't just remember who they were. They remembered who else was still out there. Deep in the void between stars, there are places no ship charts. Dead zones. Blind spots in gravitational current maps. Places where light bends wrong, where time stutters, where signals go to die. In these places, something ancient moved. Slowly. Patiently. It had no name in modern language. Only fragments. Grave seed. Drift rot. The hungering thought. But the humans remembered its true name. They had buried it once. They knew it would try to rise again. So when the first signal came, faint, distorted, laced with the pulse patterns of pre-human conflict, they acted immediately. No council votes. No broadcasts. Just activation. Aegis 1 issued Protocol Necropolis Blue. A code so old it predated the interdict. A code only one kind of being could authorize. A human general. And she was ready. Her name was General Imani Roth. Woken from cryostate buried beneath Olympus Mons. She stepped out of the coffin with no ceremony. Just a whisper from the AI. You're needed. She didn't ask why. She already knew. In orbit, an ancient human dreadnought was reactivated. UNSS Concordant Fire. Crew, 0. Weapons, all. Memory banks, intact. It drifted like a cathedral built for vengeance. And when it burned into subspace, the stars shivered. At the same time, across 5 different sectors, human operatives moved. Not soldiers. Historians. Their job wasn't to fight. It was to warn. They arrived in small ships. Unarmed. Unthreatening. And they said one thing. The first ones are stirring. We're going to stop them. But if we fail, run. The galaxy didn't know what to make of it. Who were the first ones? What war had humans fought before the rest of them ever lit their first sun? Only the oldest races understood. And they didn't speak. Not out of fear. Out of guilt. Because once, long ago, when humanity was young, they had asked for help. And the galaxy had turned away. Too primitive, they'd said. Too violent. Let them burn. So humans burned. And learned to survive anyway. And when the fire was out, they didn't scream or beg. They simply said, "Don't wake us unless it's that bad again." Now it was. The concordant fire arrived at a dead star called Kreltha's Maw. No light. No planets. No sound. Just wreckage. Thousands of ships. Shattered. Twisted. Frozen. They weren't human. They weren't modern. They were the ships of the first ones. Old enemies. The kind that did not negotiate. The kind that consumed memory like fuel. The kind that had no name because speaking it could wake them faster. General Roth stood alone on the bridge. Staring at the ruins. "They're testing the edges again," she murmured. And Aegis 1, through an avatar standing beside her, said, "Then we remind them why they stopped the first time." The strike was surgical. A chain of black holes seeded across the system, triggered in harmonic sequence. Not to destroy. To seal. To erase possibility. The grave seed couldn't be killed. But it could be caged, in quantum uncertainty, in untime. And only humans had ever figured out how. Because they were the only ones who fought it up close. And remembered what it did to minds that broke. What it did to souls. Back in known space, news of the concordant fire's movements began to spread. Not by human hands. By watchers. By the ones who had seen the edge of the black and come back terrified. And now they spoke. About what the humans had fought. And why they had earned their silence. Because they hadn't gone to sleep out of defeat. They had gone to sleep because they couldn't trust the rest of the galaxy to handle the truth. Not then. Maybe not even now. But one thing had changed. Now, others were listening. The Shaltari offered their star forges. The enkindled reaches rerouted half of their computing cycles to monitor deep void anomalies. Even the Irolith, once profit-obsessed, now shared classified data from ancient expeditions that had gone quiet in unexplored systems. They finally understood. This wasn't about power. This wasn't about politics. This was about survival of memory. Because what the first ones consumed wasn't flesh or energy. It was context. They didn't conquer. They unwrote. A civilization could be thriving one day, and the next, never have existed. Only the humans had ever come back from that. Scarred. Brutal. Unflinchingly awake. General Roth returned from Kreltha's Maw after 23 hours. The cage had held. This time. She sent one report back to Earth. Grave seed probed Sector 0 Gamma. Breach sealed. Recommend early awakening of protocol custodians in Allied space. And initiate contact with the old Earth Codes project. If we're going to survive round 2, we need the truth. All of it. Aegis 1 processed the message. Then, without ceremony, released the first classified package from the Vault of Forgotten Wars. It spread like light through vacuum. Unstoppable. Unhackable. Unavoidable. Every major species received it. A collection of recordings, documents, battlefield scans, recovered minds, and most chilling of all, dreams. Human dreams. From those who had seen the first ones in full. Who had stood in the dark and not blinked. Some of the galaxy refused to watch. Others did. And wept. And when they dried their tears, many spoke the same words. We owe them everything. On the edge of human space, a new monument was constructed. It wasn't large. Just a ring of names, etched in every known language. Around it, 13 species stood shoulder to shoulder. A former pirate. A peacekeeper. A machine intelligence. A historian. A child. Each one lit a torch. And placed it at the base. A small act. But powerful. Because it was the first time the galaxy said, "We'll help you remember." And Earth responded. With a message sent from Luna's rebuilt relay tower. Then you are not alone anymore. The galaxy didn't fall. It listened. For the first time in recorded history, every major power, empire, archive, and fringe species aligned around a shared truth. Humanity was not the enemy. They were the mirror. And when they woke, they didn't bring war. They brought clarity. The final message came not through encrypted channels or official comms. It came through an invitation. A signal. Not loud. Not urgent. A pulse, cycling across all standard frequencies. Ancient in pattern, elegant in timing. Every civilization received it. Simultaneously. The pattern translated to a single phrase. You are welcome to remember with us. Attached was a set of coordinates. Earth. The Sol system. Wide open. No interdiction fields. No locked borders. No warnings. Just an open gate. Many thought it was a trap. Others thought it was a test. But one ship went first. A small academic cruiser from the Shaltari memory cast. Its crew consisted of linguists, historians, archivists, and an 8-year-old symbiotic dreamer who translated star patterns into song. They arrived at Earth expecting something grand. They found something quiet. A single orbital station, elegant and massive, rotating slowly above Earth's surface. No weapons. No defenses. Just a name on its hull, freshly painted in every galactic dialect. The listening post. They docked. No resistance. A soft chime welcomed them aboard. Please record your stories. That was it. No interrogation. No ceremony. Just a request. And for the first time in 10,000 cycles, someone other than a human stepped forward and told the truth. In the months that followed, they came by the hundreds. Then by the thousands. Ships from every quadrant. War-born empires. Dying races. Synthetic collectives. Even isolated drift colonies that hadn't spoken to outsiders in generations. They came not to trade, or to negotiate. They came to remember. And Earth listened. The listening post expanded. Slowly at first, then rapidly, as more stories flooded in. Survivors of genocides long buried. Peace treaties signed in secret, now revealed. Regrets from aging generals. Laments from forgotten poets. Entire planets sent voice recordings from their children, just so someone would hear them. The data core grew large enough to be visible from Earth's surface. The humans didn't cure it. Didn't judge. They just held space. And made sure no voice went unheard again. Somewhere within the station, deep in its sanctum, a room remained sealed. Inside, a table. Around it, 13 empty chairs. Aegis 1 called it the council that might be. It had no official purpose. But the humans built it anyway. Just in case the galaxy ever stopped running from itself, and decided to sit down and build something together. The table was made from debris pulled from old battlefields, polished and preserved. Each chair crafted from the material of worlds that had once warred with Earth. Now reforged into a place of peace. They didn't rush to fill the seats. They just kept them open. Waiting. And then, finally, something unexpected happened. The humans told their last story. It came from an old man. Skin like aged paper. Eyes like starlight. He stood in front of 100 delegates in the listening post's main hall. And he said, "I was there. When we chose to sleep." They leaned in. He didn't shout. He didn't dramatize. He just told the truth. We were tired. Not of fighting, but of not being believed when we tried to stop the fighting. So we walked away. We locked our memories behind vaults. We said, let the galaxy learn without us. And maybe when they were ready, they'd come back. He looked around. At the alien faces. At the machine orbs. At the crystalline drones and cloaked specters from the gas giant nations. And he smiled. Softly. You came back. Then he bowed. And now we can rest the right way. And just like that, the myth of the sleeping humans became something else. Not a warning. Not a weapon. Not a threat. But a lesson. A memory seed planted in the minds of every being with the courage to face their past. And grow from it. Earth didn't close itself again. The humans didn't vanish. They just changed roles. They stopped being the terrifying specter of judgment. And became something else entirely. Stewards. Not of power. Of truth. Because truth, they realized, was the most dangerous, and the most healing thing the galaxy had ever known. 1,000 years later, a child born on a station orbiting the Trispar rings asked her teacher, "Is it true humans were once monsters?" And the teacher said, "No. That's what we called them when we didn't want to listen." The child thought for a moment. "Then what are they now?" And the teacher smiled. "Now? They're the reason we can ask that question at all." In the void where no stars shine, the first one stirred again. A shadow curled. A whisper slithered through dark space. But before it could spread, it hit something. A net. Old. Human. A warning flared into the void. Observed. Remembered. Awaiting permission to respond. The whisper withdrew. Because even the oldest evils had learned. You don't wake the humans. Not anymore. Because they're already awake. And this time, so is the galaxy.